Welcome to the Power Coast Girls podcast. Here we have honest conversations about faith, relationships, and personal growth. No filters, no pretending, just real life and real faith.
Whether you're a believer, a curious skeptic, or somewhere in between, you belong here. Our hope is that every conversation leaves you encouraged, strengthened, and empowered. So let's get into it. We're back.
You guys, we're in a new space. Talk about upgrade.
I know. If you guys followed us, you know we've been doing much better.
Seriously, if anyone watches or watched our old videos,
I know.
Yeah, total upgrade. We were recording those in our room that we shared.
On a bed.
Yeah, on a bed. And yeah, we were just doing what we could at the time. And
honestly,
now,
you make do with what you have.
Exactly.
Kudos for us.
I know. Seriously.
Whatever. We are brave.
You know what? It's fine. And we look back on those times and it's like the upgrade. Like just like, and that's, I'm so excited for us to talk about so many things today about like where we're at now, because I really feel like we've like gotten a whole like.
It's been a year and a half.
Yeah.
I think since like our last podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe like a minute. Yeah. So we both got engaged. We both got married.
And only one of us is pregnant. Okay.
Right
yeah, Demi's pregnant.
So that's a nice update. But
yeah.
Life has been great. We've been extremely busy, but we really wanted to kind of start back up this project. Like, we just loved what we did for those few months. And we prayed about it, and we felt like there was much significance about us still being able to kind of use our platform and our experiences and even the things that we went through and that we're still going through, you know, all to honor God and to help other people kind of in this walk of life.
Right. And even in this like last year and a half, I feel like we have experienced so much growth and maturity that now coming back, like, you know, now in 2026, we have so much more experience under our belt that we can like now tap into and talk about, because at the time when we came here, nothing was bad or anything like that, but there were challenges that we had to face. Being, if you're not familiar with our story, like I moved here from Texas.
And I moved here from Canada, so
yeah, so I'm
an immigrant.
we started from scratch essentially, and it's not because we had rough lives where we were at before, but we just wanted a new fresh beginning. And truly we can look back now and say God brought us together for a reason. God brought us here to California for a reason, and we're fully like living out, I would say, those answered prayers that we had, you know, months, years back for both of us.
Yeah.
So
no, for sure. And like, even like we were like, what should the first podcast be, you know? But we kind of wanted to start not at the beginning where like, this happened to me and this happened to me, moved here, but more so like, okay, what was the biggest thing that we learned when we moved to California? And like, obviously now that we're a year and a half, almost, actually we hit our 2 years in January of being in California. Like, what's one thing that we could really start a podcast about? And we really felt like the topic could be centered around like God just removing things from your life. So we just wanted to kind of talk about kind of the question that we're posing is God removing things from your life for a reason?
Right. And so, yeah, for new listeners and people who listened to us before, we're going to start structuring our podcast like that, where we're answering questions and putting questions out there that maybe be a little controversial or just be hard to answer. And it's not that we don't have all the answers, but we're hoping to shed light in this to those answers in a positive way, and also in a faithful biblical way, as much as we can be of service to, you know, honor God in that. So
for sure.
Yeah. So
what was one thing that you've learned
in this past, year and a half?
Yeah. Like in terms of like God removing things from your life.
Oh my gosh. I think just having ultimate trust in God. I am an anxious person. Like Doomy knows this. I am very anxious. I worry about the smallest things. And so coming here was like a complete test to really rely on God, right? Didn't have family here. I had a friend, you know, who was about 45 minutes, an hour away. So really relying on God and trusting God to be able to provide for me in ways that I have never seen before. And so, yeah, in this last year and a half, it was complete and total trust. Yeah, what would you say?
Honestly, yeah. I feel like I'm so independent all the time.
Same.
And for someone that like moved countries and kind of did it all on their own and left a whole life behind, you know, and like starting over, I think I put more trust in myself, even though I knew it was a move that God wanted me to do to like move here to California.
Right.
It was like God made, or at least like God approved, but yeah, I think I just learned the very hard way, which I typically do. If you know me, you know me. Jess is laughing because she knows me.
Well, and we all do, so don't bring yourself down.
Exactly, that's okay. But I think the hardest lesson was like really learning to like depend on the Lord and not myself, you know?
Yeah. I
Not
know,
letting that pride get in the way.
yeah, no, to her point, like we're both very independent people, and I would say we're both like this, where we both like to control. And I mean, a lot of people are like that, where we like to control our circumstances, our situations. And so, again, having that like complete trust in God is really hard, but that's where ultimately where faith comes in. You know, we didn't have all the answers. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about to answer this question of, is God removing things from your life for a reason, is one of the things that God ultimately does when we are experiencing maybe a challenge or an obstacle and we feel like, why is God allowing this to happen? Or why is God maybe doing this to me? I feel like a lot of times we blame God, right? And that's like obviously like not the right thing to do. But sometimes God uses those things or strips things away from us, like people. You know, that could be relationships or a job. He can remove from a job, or literally strip anything away from you to refine you and to then bring you into where he wants to take you. So for us, I would say moving here, we left home. You know, we left behind friends, we left behind family, and obviously we still are connected with them. But essentially, God was bringing us to then, like, we wouldn't have met, we wouldn't have had the community that we have now. We wouldn't have had our husbands.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
We came for you.
Yeah. So it's like God really does not takes things away. He allows things to be removed in your life for the greater good, for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. I have a verse here that's like John 15, verse 2. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do bear fruit, so they will produce even more. Do you feel like he had to like prune you?
Yeah, you know what I would say? Once we moved here, I think I've gotten spiritually stronger. And you know why? Because I've had to rely on God more. I think I'm from Dallas, so living in Dallas, great. Again, loved living there, loved Texas. But it was comfortable, right? It was what I knew for so long. So coming here, I had to really rely on God, and I think my relationship with him has only grown stronger because I've just been so dependent on him. And honestly, when you're in a new situation, so like for example, I lost a job right after college. This was like obviously like several years ago now, but we won't get into the year. But when I lost that job, I remember feeling very lost. And I thought, how is God allowing me to be jobless right after college? Like it was like literally 6 months after, I graduated. But I look back now and like, I see why God removed me from there, because that environment was extremely toxic. I also like later found out that a lot of the leadership had actually gotten fired, and that there was some shady stuff happening in that company. Right. So I saw it as, man, how would God allow me to be let go from this position? But in reality, God was removing me from that because he didn't want me to be in that anymore. So I look at that situation specifically too, and am reminded that God always has a greater plan. And so whenever we feel like, man, why is this happening to me? Or like we can get really negative about certain situations, or like, my life is not going the way I want it to go. It's like God is only redirecting you to a better path. And ultimately he's giving you opportunities to trust him more.
And I think that takes me kind of to my second point. It's like God isn't, he doesn't want you to be unhappy, but maybe he's stripping something away from you, not to make you sad or to hurt you or anyway, but to like reposition you. you know?
For a greater purpose.
Exactly. And so kind of my thing was like God removes before he repositions. And if you've like followed me or like you obviously my friends and even like in our earlier podcast recordings, like moving to California was like the most humbling experience for me because yes, I left crazy winters in Canada and like negative 30-degree weather and hibernation mode all the time, but honestly it came at a cost, and that cost was like I left a great job behind in Toronto. Obviously I'm the oldest of 6, so I left obviously my family behind, like which I love, all my dogs and the cat. I don't really care about the chickens that my mom has, but they're there. Coco, I know.
Her little dog. She's so cute.
I miss her. But it was really humbling because I come here and I have to start completely over. And one thing I really learned, I've always known this, is like my job takes up a lot of my identity. I love work, and that's like kind of one of the idols that I like am constantly having to deal with. But because I came on a student visa, I came from an MBA, I wasn't allowed to work. And so with no funding from Canada side to pay for my education and no funding here because I'm not allowed to have a job, okay, like how else do you survive?
Yeah, you guys, she was working so many odd jobs.
I
wouldn't say like, that sounds bad to say odd, but just so many different types of jobs to make ends meet.
For sure. Much. And they were met. You know, and not because of my own doing, the Lord always provided. But I took on babysitting, like,
which is something like, tell them what you did before.
I worked in corporate. I loved like just the hustle and the bustle. I lived downtown, and I loved my job at a cryptocurrency firm. Like even my friends in Toronto, like, no, I was obsessed with that job. It was hard, but even like coming here, like babysitting was very humbling because I'm so used to like going, but now I have to take care of this little human who doesn't speak, right? Doesn't have energy like I do. So I feel like I'm all the way up there and like they're here. Another random job like was like working a taco truck for a weekend.
Oh my gosh,
that was ridiculous. Like
that job.
I thought I sold my soul for a weekend, and that's when I realized. And like I didn't have peace about it. The thing is, God knew when to give me peace about certain jobs and when not to give me peace about certain jobs. But like things were triggered, and I can tell like, okay, God wants me here, God doesn't want me here. But it's just so crazy to think that like I had gone so long without a car.
That too. Yeah, because at least I had a car when I moved here, right? I drove here, but you came straight off the airplane.
Exactly. I came straight off the airplane. For the first few months, I was literally renting a car. And then I was blessed with the family that I was babysitting for. They had an extra car.
Who does that, by the way? That's
honestly, like shout out to you.
Nice.
And that car got me to school, you know, and just like getting around to my other jobs, like babysitting in the area and stuff. So like without that, I would have not been able to do anything. But at the end of the day, God always provided. However, like kind of going back to my point, like God removes before he repositions. Like he constantly removes so many things in my time before everything worked out perfectly. You know, like even at the same time I landed was when I started dating my husband now, and shortly after was engagement, and like he had a car all the time, so he was able to like help me around, and he had a job and stable money, so like he was able to help me out in times when I was in need, you know. Now we share a bank account, so it was a good investment.
Cha-ching. No, but that's so true. Okay, so one of our Bible verses for this is Deuteronomy 8:2, and it says, "Remember how the Lord your God led you through the wilderness for these 40 years, humbling you and testing you to prove your character and to find out whether or not you would obey his commands." I feel like that is such a testament to both of our stories, but especially to yours, because it did humble you a lot. Yeah. But also look on the other side, it's like God honored all of that, and now she's working in another corporate role, and she loves her job. Honestly, it was just, you were set up for success. And even though you had to put in some of those really rough days, weeks, months, really.
I was miserable.
I was so miserable.
Yeah. And like, just like the part about the last part of the verse, humbling you and testing you to prove your character and to find out whether or not you would obey his commands. Like, I think that was the ultimate goal of why God didn't give me everything all at once right when I landed, because how else is he going to like strengthen a character or get me to depend on him, right, if I'm not starting from ground zero. And I think one thing that I really held on to when I came here was I never started my day without reading my Bible.
That's so true.
Like, we shared a room. I don't know if many of you guys don't know. We shared an actual room. Like, we were roommates, and her bed was like, I woke up and saw her. She woke up and saw me.
Roommates. Like, not like when people say like, oh, we're roommates. Like, no, we literally
lived in the same room.
A room.
Yeah.
No, but that's so true. Like, you were so diligent about waking up, reading your Bible. She's really good at that. I feel like I'm not as good in that. I'm good in maybe other areas, but like that was something that I was like, oh, I really admire that, because even though she had to wake up super early. You're also a morning person. That helps.
I'm a huge morning person.
But
not when I'm pregnant, though.
But when you would wake up, it was like, even though she had to go do something, you know, babysit or whatever, at like, well, I don't know, 8 in the morning, she would wake up earlier and made time to read her Bible. And yeah, I think for both of us too, like there was a season too where we were like both praying together, like before night or before we went to sleep. And I think those little things really do add up. And honestly, it's just like God honors that. I feel like sometimes people maybe like overcomplicate things and say, you know, think like, oh, I have to like do X, Y, and Z to kind of prove my, prove my worth to God. But like God he just wants you, and he just wants to hear from you. Yeah. And I feel like for us, like we tried to bring God in mostly everything. I mean, we're not perfect. But I feel like because we did that and we obeyed in those ways, then God honors that, and he's going to reward, and he's going to reward us.
And in terms of like my career, and like the job that he blessed me with is like such a big blessing, because not only does it have great benefits, like it gave me it was my first job here, my legal job here.
Yeah.
But like, I'm also surrounded by Christians, and there's just so much space for me to also be a light to others in my office. So yeah, many opportunities, but like just to kind of wrap up that point, my whole thing was like, what feels like loss is often transition, not punishment. God often moves us out before moving us forward, and he never does anything without the intentions, right? Like another verse was Romans 8:28, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Like,
I love that verse so much. It's literally my favorite verse.
I think it's one of my husband's tattoos. I
think
really?
So. Yeah. Oh, shout out Tony.
I know. Good job, baby.
But no, it's such a good verse, and it's so true.
Yeah.
And I think another thing too is like people who maybe aren't like as close to God, it's not like because you're a Christian, you just like reap all these rewards either.
Trust me, you got to work for it.
Right. And so that's like the misconception too. I think people think like, okay, if I'm a Christian, like it's going to be like God's going to reward me and it's going to be easy. And it's like, no, it's like, if anything, I feel like the devil is out to get us more and like challenge us more. But we have faith, so we don't have to worry or stress out.
For sure.
But yeah, no, that's so good. Last thing I guess that we wanted to kind of like touch on this question was just, okay, so we talked about refocusing, right? Like refocusing your mindset and asking the question, God, where might you be leading me next? Instead of, God, why are you taking this away? Like, no, where are you leading me next? And where can I trust you more? And then you focus more on like the rest part, like, okay, could God be protecting me or preparing me? And let me rest in that truth and know that God's under control.
Yeah.
And one of the final things that we wanted to kind of answer this question is, you said refocus.
Yes.
Is the rest part. So like God removes what could hurt us later. And so kind of I was talking about like the job that I mentioned that I got let go from. Yeah, that is a total blessing in disguise. And actually there's been a lot of blessings in disguise in our lives. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you look back and it's just like, yep, he saved me there, he saved me there, he saved me there. So many bullets that you dodged. But to that point, what feels like loss can actually be protection, you know, and we don't see it in the moment. And like, we know that we've had our personal struggles with like things, work related, personal relationships,
and
everything.
Decisions like we made.
Exactly. You know? But it feels like in the moment, like everything is being robbed of you. But for example, like now, like all the relationships. Wow, relationship. Okay.
Relationship.
All the see, baby, you make me nervous. All the relationships before my husband, you know,
Yeah.
like in those times, I did not know what was happening. I did not know that God had Tony planned for me and all that stuff. But what felt like breakup and what felt like heart loss and like just like really, really deep hurt and like even trauma, doesn't even compare to what God had planned for me in this marriage, you know?
Absolutely.
And like, so what feels like loss actually is God protecting you. Like your life could have ended up so much more differently. But because the Lord loves his kids and like a great father, and he created us, he knows what's good for us. He's going to have good things stored for us. And we just got to see through, I guess, like the hurdle and the challenge and be able to like view God not as a bad guy. Like, why does he keep making my life hard? Why is there so much hurt in my life if there's a God that exists? It's like, no, there's evil that exists in this world, and that's where hurt and evil and sin comes from.
Yeah, anything that's evil and bad comes straight from the devil. Like, that is not coming from God. God comes in to, like, essentially save the day and restores and redeems and all that. You know what story in the Bible I was thinking of? So, like, I love the story of Joseph, like, my favorite story in the Bible. And, you know, obviously, maybe most people are familiar with it. But, like, think about all the obstacles that Joseph had to deal with. He was abused by his brothers. Was he sold into slavery? Yeah. Right? He was sold into slavery. And even then, once he gets to, Potiphar's wife's, or what was it called? He gets to Egypt, right? He gets there, and then he's, like, working for, like, the top guy, but then the guy's wife then accuses him of something that he didn't do. So it's like and then he was in jail. Like, so this guy...
As if it couldn't get worse.
Right, like, it literally gets worse and worse for him, right? But I love how he was so faithful to God, and, like, if you read the whole story of Joseph in the Bible, it is like a clear depiction of like God is always faithful, and like even in Joseph's story, like he trusted God, and he ends up being a leader in the nation, and his brothers end up forgiving him, or sorry, he forgives his brothers. They end up having relationship again, and the character that Joseph had, like he was able to
persevered.
Yeah, he persevered through his obstacles. He forgave his brothers, and he even gave his brothers gave them like the love, and I think he gave them something else like tangibly, but like
food. I think there was a famine.
Yeah, and so just that like exactly perseverance, like in his story, like he had all this hardship, but again, like what Romans 8:28 says, like God used it for good. Yeah. So
for sure. I mean, a similar story to Job too, right? Like God, one after another, like Satan went to God and was like, oh, look at Job, he's a perfect servant, like, but that's because you've given him everything and everything is so easy for him. And God was like, no, like, go ahead and disrupt his life, and besides the boundary of not killing him, and let's see how faithful he is. And like one thing after another,
like his wife died.
His wife died, his children all burned in a house. All of his like livestock were killed, and
he was essentially like homeless.
He was homeless. He got sick. Like there was a disease. And yet through it all, like he still stood firm. Yeah. You know, in that faith. Kind of our verse for that would be 2 Corinthians 4:17. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long. Yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever.
That's so good. Because it is true. Like, I think most of us, we can look back on our life, and especially when we're like teenagers, you know, we're like, man, that really...
I still remember it.
Yeah, yesterday. And we think it was the end of the world.
Oh, yeah.
And then we look back now and we're just kind of laugh because we're like, okay, that was literally nothing.
I was a baby.
Yeah, like, why was I crying over that? Or, like, why was I allowing myself to get so frustrated and stressed out when, in reality, like, there's so much more that God has for you. So I think our encouragement is to anyone who's listening is, we understand the challenges and the obstacles that we all experience in life, but there is always something that's going to come out of it, and God's going to use it for his glory.
Yeah, and I think it's just such a healthier mindset to digest. Like, if something doesn't go your way, if you don't get the promotion that you were wanting, if, like, you didn't get that commission, because I'm in sales, so it's like I'm watching my numbers. If I don't get that commission check that I'm, like, expecting or anticipating, or I felt like I deserved, you know, like, everything happens for a reason. I'm just going to know and, like, trust in the fact that the Lord knows what he's giving me and what he's not giving me. Yeah. And the things that he's not giving me is for a purpose. And the things that he's giving me is also for a purpose. Right. You know, so like I have a really good mentor. Her name is Jess. And
not me.
Not you, but she's a great mentor. And she always says, like, take every opportunity as a practice to get better. You know, so like maybe some like encouragement for like the next time something comes around and you're disappointed in the outcome or you didn't get what you wanted. Like, rather than like sitting there and like pitting yourself or like playing the victim card, which it's easy to do because
we all do it.
We've all done it, and I fight about that all the time. Toughen up, little soldier. But
it sounds so harsh.
I know,
but sometimes like you have to be your biggest. I mean, that's so true. You have to be your biggest cheerleader, and ultimately, like,
life goes on.
Right, you're gonna
sit there and cry about it.
Yeah, and I mean, sorry, we're not like diminishing something that's like super detrimental.
I cried last night, so right. I had to tell myself so like.
I've gotten more emotional since I moved here.
I know.
What is that? It's because we're getting older.
I know. Maybe it's because we're married.
I know, right? Our husbands did this to us. But no, I hope you guys are encouraged today. And especially if you're walking through a dark season, just be reminded that God has your back. There is so much more for you in this season. And just know that God's always working on your behalf and just to trust him.
He's your father. He knows how to give you good gifts, you know? Way better than our fathers, but we love them.
Yeah, we still love you, Dad.
Yay. Well, thanks for joining, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.